You're on mute.
Of course I am.
How's my audio? Is the volume okay?
Yeah,
Okay.
it seems good.
I've had a lot of problems with it lately, so I just thought I would ask. Hi, friend.
Problems too. My internet like goes out once a day now. I'm like unpredictable when. It's very scary, but sometimes I'm in the middle of an important meeting and I just disappear for an hour. Like, I don't know.
That happened to me all the time when I had satellite internet.
Yeah.
Massive issues.
Hey, Laura.
Hey, how's it going?
Good.
Thanks for doing this, and thanks for setting this up, Amy.
Oh my gosh, no, thank you guys for helping, because I know you both got a lot going on. And hi other friend. Hi, Cassandra.
It feels like Friday. I don't know if anybody else has got that going, but
every day feels like Friday this week. On Monday, I was like, how many days do I have to go to work?
Yep.
Oh, I texted my boss today and I said, how would you feel if I just didn't show up to work tomorrow?
A holiday, right?
No, he laughed at me and he's like, if you take a day off, are you going to actually not show up for work tomorrow? He's like, I'm not like telling you I don't want you to work. I just am saying that you're full of, he said, you're and I was just like, I don't know how I feel about you saying that to me. All right, let's see.
So then you said something about an Excel spreadsheet, Amy?
Yeah, I'm gonna share it with you right now.
Okay.
My brain's not working. Hang on, let me like figure out what I was doing. All right. Okay. So everybody's gonna need this anyway. So I'm just gonna put it in the chat box now. And then, okay. And you can totally modify this. This is not like, I'm not married to how this is set up. It's really like do whatever you want and then I'll worry about it later when I actually compile everything. So sort of type whatever you want wherever you need to. So on this, I'll actually, let's see, I'll share my screen and then, oh God, where is it? Okay.
So this is basically just one giant brainstorming session.
Kind of, yeah.
Right? Okay.
All about getting them to think, right? So first we're gonna go through, we'll do the like bullet sessions, like it's like bullet presentations, right? So we only have 5 minutes a person to say like, here's the biggest thing that I do different that makes me successful at volunteer recruitment. And then, well, actually the very, very first thing we're gonna do is have people go into the Jamboard, which is this, right? So we'll let them use the Jamboard and they can write down like their thoughts. Oh, good. I actually fixed that. And so they'll say like, here are the biggest roadblocks we're facing. So it's like the first thing is for everybody to just like lay it all out, get it out there, get mad, whatever. And then we will do the bullet presentation. So we have all the slides here. And Cassandra, you have the link to that, right? The presentation, because you edited it. You're on mute.
And I'm just facilitating, right? Because I didn't prepare anything to present tonight.
No.
Okay. Just checking. Just checking. Because I could come up with something really quick, but I didn't.
No, you're fine. Katie, Cassandra, and I are presenting. So Katie Thompson, Museum of Art, is presenting, and then and I put our names on there backwards. It's fine. And then me, and then Cassandra will go. And 5 minutes to say like, here's the big thing I want to tell you. And then we'll go into the breakout rooms. Who's the anonymous dingo? I love that. Okay. I didn't even know Loris was an animal. All right. So, and then we'll go in here and we just brainstorm like, what are your big ideas for recruitment? And then we'll come back and have a discussion, and then we'll look at this Jamboard. So what's the best new idea you're taking with you? And so the reason that we do this is because the reason that it's done this way, hi Katie, is to facilitate everybody kind of getting their brains working. And also, you know, most volunteer managers are alone, you know,
Right,
so
right.
you're brainstorming with yourself. And that's really awful. And so the last Jamboard is really to kind of, what it is collecting the very best ideas. So when we go into those Excel spreadsheets, it's every idea, and we'll give everyone all of them. So they'll have access to the full list. But then they also get a copy of the Jamboards. And so they can see, like, here are the things that everybody thought, like, yeah, this is actually like the thing I want to implement. And we can look for like trends, you know, so if everybody says, you know, if we have 10 people say, I'm going to do this one thing, then we know, you know, even for later, or maybe we can all work on together as well. So,
Okay.
and now people are showing up. Woo!
Okay, so quick question.
This is the only industry I've ever worked in where like people actually show up on time and early.
So I have a question. Am I doing anything other than presenting and then like
Karen,
Facilitate.
join the meeting.
like I just have to fill out this Excel spreadsheet thing?
Yeah, but in whatever way you want. Messy is good.
Okay.
I don't know if you were here for that when I said messy was okay.
Yeah, I was here. I just am double checking what my role is.
Yes, your 5-minute presentation, answer questions if people have them for you, and then facilitate a room. So can everybody see that?
Yes.
Yes.
Great. Well, I guess if I say, can you see that? I should probably tell you what I want you to be seeing. The thing that says volunteer recruitment.
Yep.
Yep.
Excellent. And I promise to edit this recording. We make it available.
That's always the fun part, isn't it?
I know. So I'm actually, maybe Emily will do that because I'm saving it to the cloud so she can just download it.
Yeah.
Or whoever. I'm like, whoever wants to do the editing. I can. It's just such a huge file.
Right.
So we'll let everyone stew for a second, and then we'll let people in. Katie, how are you?
I'm doing pretty well. How are you guys?
I'm good.
Good.
Resituating.
Well,
Oh, hey, Katie, you're in Fort Wayne, Indiana?
I am, yeah.
Oh, okay. I have a friend who works out that way. She works at the Automobile Museum out there.
Oh, yeah, the Aubencourt Duesenberg?
Yeah. She's the collections manager there.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. I've met the education person from there.
Okay.
But I haven't had any interactions with their collections people, unfortunately.
Okay. That's cool. I just recognized, I was like, oh, I wonder if that's the same place, like the same city. Cool.
Yeah. A lot of people think I live in Texas. So I was waiting for you to be like, oh, are you in Texas?
it's
Fort Worth.
this to just say, Cassandra and Katie, if you open the presentation on your web browsers, you should be able to control the presentation. So like, Katie, I know you only have one slide, but
Yeah.
Cassandra, you have more than one slide, and you should be able to control it from your browser. Do you have it open?
I do.
Do you want to see if you can? If you can't, I will give everyone co-hosting capability in them. Or I will move them if it should work, but it doesn't always work.
I'm trying to move it, but nothing's happening.
Okay, then I will move them because it's being hateful today. Sometimes it does that if everyone doesn't have the same version of the browser, which is annoying, but so I'll just move them because you only have like 2 slides, right?
Yeah.
Okay, then it's not really that big a deal. I'm the crazy one with more than one slide, even though I will go through them in 5 minutes. All right, I'm gonna let everybody in. And I read all of our speakers, the co-host. So if you see someone who needs to get let in and I'm being rude and missing them, if you will admit them, that would be awesome. All right, so hi everybody, and thank you so much for joining us tonight. We're gonna get started in just a couple of minutes here. We're gonna give everyone else a chance to kind of filter in and see how many more people we get. We have a lot of people registered tonight, so I wanna make sure we give everyone an opportunity to get here before we really get started. How's everybody doing? Oh, you may unmute yourselves. I think you can do that. I hope you can. We've got a thumbs up from Carol Thompson that she's doing good.
Yes, hi, thanks for holding this.
Yeah, thank you so much for being here. We're looking forward to everybody sharing a lot of really good ideas tonight. So I also have cats being inappropriate today. So we may have cat visitors in our presentation. And speak of the devil. Hello. So I think we'll just give it about 30 more seconds and see how many more people come in, and then we'll go ahead and get started to keep everybody on time. I know it's getting a little late on the East Coast, so thank you everyone here tonight from the East Coast. And it sounds like we might have a few friends from Australia visiting us. So if you are from Australia, thanks for coming from your Wednesday to our Tuesday. All right, we're going to go ahead and get started. So thank you everybody for coming to our volunteer recruitment jam session. And my name is Amy Oliver. I am the Visitor and Science Center Manager at the Fred Lawrence Whipple Observatory in Amado, Arizona. And I am also the Southwest Director on the board of the National Emerging Museum Professionals Network. And we have a great slate of speakers and moderators tonight. And I'm going to let them each introduce themselves. So Katie, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. My name is Katie Thompson. I work at the Fort Wayne Museum of Art in Fort Wayne, Indiana, and I've been the Children's Education Associate there for about 3 years. I got my BA actually in history, and I have a master's in digital humanities.
Great. And Katie, thank you so much for coming and joining us tonight. I was really excited by things that you had to say in the original thread where this idea came about. So it's a—
Oh, yeah. No problem. I also have a cat, so we might see him jumping in and out as well.
Oh, wonderful. Cats are always welcome. There's a lot of cats going around the museum industry, and they're always welcome. Cassandra, do you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Cassandra Cavnis. I am the Development Assistant at the Montgomery Museum of Fine Arts in Montgomery, Alabama. And I have a unique role, I guess, because I kind of have my hand in a little bit of volunteering, grant writing, and then adult education. So I'm a little bit of everything.
Great. And so I also want to welcome, we have 2 additional moderators here tonight. So you've just heard from our speakers, and then we have moderators. So Laura, did you want to introduce yourself?
Sure. So hi, everybody. My name is Laura Santoyo, and I am a curator of collections and museum studies instructor for a place called the Shingothi Center. It's a small academic museum just outside of Chicago. And I'm looking forward to getting to know all of you tonight and learning about volunteer recruitment. So thanks for joining us.
And before we go, last but not least, to Jessie, I did want to also say that Cassandra and Laura are also both on the board at NEMPN, and that's our host tonight. So, you know, you guys, you can say who you are at NEMPN if you want to, but also Jessie is on the board at NEMPN. And so Jessie, do you want to go ahead and introduce yourself?
Sure. Hi, everyone. My name's Jessie. I am the Western Regional Director for NEMPN, and I'm in California, and my background is in exhibitions and collections management. And right now I work for a software company that makes software for museum collections.
All right, so how tonight is going to work is we're going to start out with a Jamboard. If you've ever done a Jamboard, go ahead and raise your hand or give me a thumbs up. So a new experience. Oh, we've got a thumbs up right here. Okay, so we've got one thumbs up and I've done one. So this will be an interesting experience for everybody tonight. So don't worry, I'm here to help you figure out how you're going to do a Jamboard. And we're going to do that all together. So it'll be a really kind of cool and interesting experience for everyone. Then I call them the bullet train. So we're going to have 3 presentations that are 5 minutes. So they're very tightly focused on the one big thing that each of us has been doing to really facilitate good volunteer recruitment. Then we're going to go into breakout sessions, and that's where moderators come in. And I'm going to try really hard to get everybody into the right breakout rooms, but Zoom is not my tech of choice. So we're going to see what happens. And then we'll all come back together and do a discussion about what we talked about in our breakout rooms. And then we'll do one last Jamboard. And at the conclusion of this presentation and at the conclusion of the jam session, you'll receive access to all of these materials. So you'll be able to access not only the video, but also all of the Jamboards and the entire list from every breakout room. Because what we really want is for everybody to walk away from this with actionable ideas for increasing your volunteer recruitment and making it something that brings you joy rather than stress. Give me just a second. I'm going to let Samantha Groff in. Woo! Sam's here. Okay, so Sam is from my region, and I've tailed her into doing some stuff. So I'm really excited to see her here tonight as well. So without further ado, we're going to go ahead and get started. So I'm going to take us into the first Jamboard. And first, what I'm going to do is actually share it with everyone, because this is how we think I'm going to share it with everyone. The chat. Wants to tell me how to find the chat. It's missing. All right.
Be down on your banner. If you scroll underneath, it should pop up on the banner.
See if I can. All right. Well, we're sharing. My banner is missing. So that's where we are right now. I'm going to stop sharing. Oh, wait, there's chat. Got it. We're in a better place. Okay. It was hiding from me in all the shares that I've done. So, all right. So I just put in the chat box the Jamboard. And so I want to make sure that everybody has access to that Jamboard. And the Jamboard you should be looking at has a question at the top. And that question is, what are your biggest roadblocks to volunteer recruitment? And I see everybody kind of logging in. And so that's the question you're going to want. If that's not the question you see, make sure you scroll back one to the left at the top of that screen. And I'm going to go ahead and share that screen now. And if you've never done a Jamboard before, okay, what you can do, there's all these tools on the left-hand side. And my favorite one is the 4th tool down, and it's a sticky note. So I'm going to say my biggest roadblock to volunteer recruitment is how far away I am. Because for those of you who don't know, my facility is actually located about 22 minutes from the nearest city. So is everybody able to edit on there? I'm not seeing the updates. Let's try again. There we go. All right, so we've got someone who said institutional buy-in. You know, I experienced that too. That's a really big problem for me in my institution, is getting them to understand how important it is to be able to do really good volunteer recruitment. Okay. Yeah, so we've got a lot of really good things coming up here, and everybody really understanding. We got someone who has a problem getting younger volunteers. Volunteers are older and they have a lot of COVID risks. Retention, keeping the volunteers coming back. Yeah, that's a really huge problem, especially in COVID. So I'm really hoping we can all start talking about that. Nobody answers your call for volunteers. I actually will be talking about that hugely tonight in my 5 minutes. So whoever wrote that, watch out for me. Okay, did somebody just clear our Jamboard? If you accidentally cleared the Jamboard, please click the undo button. If you think it was you, click the undo button. That's okay. Well, we'll figure it out. We'll figure it out in a little bit. But so the one big thing, everybody just remember, don't click things like clear frame in the Jamboard, because we all have edit capability. So if you do that, you clear everyone's ideas off of the Jamboard. But so we've seen a lot of really good ideas tonight. And there we go. Thank you for clicking the back button. Whoever clicked the back button. Much appreciated. They're back. All of our ideas are back. Okay, so there's a lot going on here. And thank you for whoever's cleaning things up here for us so that we can see everyone's ideas. So we're going to talk a lot about these things tonight, you know, coming up with meaningful projects, finding ways to get more people in, finding ways to get younger people in. And so this is a really, really huge thing. And so we're actually going to start off. I'm actually going to take us out of this Jamboard. Okay. And so we're doing a lot of moving around tonight. So everybody forgive us for that, but we've got a lot of really great stuff going on. And what I'm going to do now is hand it over to Katie, and she's going to talk about the Fort Wayne Museum of Fine Arts and her perspective on volunteer recruitment.
Okay, so as Amy said, my name is Katie Thompson. I work at the Fort Wayne Museum of Art in Fort Wayne, Indiana. So it's Northeast Indiana. We're a pretty small museum. We serve Northeast Indiana, Northwest Ohio predominantly. And I've been there for about 3 years, and the education team is just myself and then the director of children's education. So we only have docents for children's programming. We do have an adult education person, but she does not utilize docents. So I know a lot of museums have different types of docents, like interpretation, docents that sit at a desk and hand out materials. Ours are almost solely for children. Sometimes they'll come in and help if we have really big events as second eyes in the galleries to ask people not to touch things. But for the most part, they are leading children's tours. So that's the biggest thing that they do. And what you're seeing on the screen is actually our mailer. So our marketing person made this a year and a half ago, I think. It's about a half sheet. It's like a postcard. And it's worked out really well because we can keep them at the front desk. And then what we actually did with them was we mailed them out and we sent them, we actually took them around town. So we put them in libraries, the main branch library, and then some of the local libraries close to us, the coffee hot spots downtown, some major restaurants. Sorry, cat. Where else did we take them? Other cultural organizations, we share kind of a block with the theater, and then Arts United, which is another cultural organization that does dance and other craft things. So really just kind of trying to hit the audience in the community where they were actually going. We have found that quite a few people in our community don't even know we exist. They came to the art museum in 2nd grade for their field trip and they never came back. And then they forgot that we were here. I'm actually a transplant. I'm originally from St. Louis, and I don't have a car, which is a lot of fun in the Midwest. So I took a lot of lifts when I first moved here, and people would be like, oh, you know, what brought you to Fort Wayne? I work at the Fort Wayne Museum of Art. And they would be like, we have an art museum? So that's actually been the biggest thing that we have to overcome, is just people even knowing we exist. And then once they know that we're here, getting them involved. So we tend to target primarily retired teachers, because we also run the Scholastic Art and Writing Awards for our area. If anyone's familiar with that, it's nationwide, regional, and then nationwide competition for creative students age 13 to 17 in art and writing. So that gives us this amazing teacher pool that's just already knows about us because they help their students submit and things like that. And then we also go to teacher volunteer things, and we host the art teacher meeting once a month, or we did at least before meetings were canceled. In-person meetings were canceled. So a lot of those people know we're there, and we kind of keep pushing them saying, hey, when you retire, if you want to come hang out with us, still, especially teachers tend to get bored very easily, and then they start looking for something to come back to. We also mail to all of our members. All of our docents are also members to our museum. So that's a great pool that's already there, especially if you're just having trouble reaching out to people. And then I noticed on the Jamboard, someone was talking about younger docents, and we actually partner with a local university here. St. Francis has a museum studies program. And so those students come in and do what we call practicums, where they get hands-on experience. And part of that is joining docent meetings and from time to time leading tours, depending on their schedules, as student tours tend to take place when they're also in class. So that's been a great way to get younger people in. We have also actually gone to our local radio station, the NPR affiliate for WBOI. We've talked to them. I know that they've done a couple of commercials, but our marketing advisor has said that people just don't watch TV anymore. Everyone streams, so that's not really a good use of revenue. But a lot of people just leave the radio on, especially the older retired generation that we tend to target for docents. And then the other big part for us is we reach out to the active older adults, which is a community group here. I'm sure that there's one in your area too. It might take a little bit of digging. They all kind of have different names. But we really like those people because they're able to stand for long periods of time. When you're on a tour with children, you have to be able to corral 25 kids and stand and walk through the galleries. So that's actually been something. We've lost a couple of docents this year due to health issues, or not this year, but last year, due to health issues of them just being like, I can't stand in the galleries like this any longer. We do have chairs, but it's not quite the same. We've noticed they don't really like to use them. And then retention wise, I feel like I'm talking really fast, but I want to get through this for the 5 minutes. So if I keep talking really fast and I miss something, just let me know. But we sat down and actually set out a module for training docents this year, which is something we've never really done. We've been fairly loosey-goosey with our docents. We don't require them to have an art background, luckily, because that would be really hypocritical because I don't have an art background. I'm a history major. So we provide not only public speaking techniques, but also that art history knowledge that they need. So it's a great way to market. The way that we do it is continued learning. And, building on previous skills, keeping them, in the community, learning new things, experiencing new things. We've gone on field trips. We had a field trip planned actually to a local museum, and then COVID hit, so we've had to move that, but it will happen. And they get really excited about going places together. And the other big thing is social. Right now, I think especially this group is feeling really isolated. And so we've maintained our biweekly docent meetings via Zoom, and everyone now is so familiar with Zoom that we haven't had any technological issues, luckily, but they love that because they all get to see each other, they get to check in with each other, and then we've actually been assigning them projects. So we upload photos and label information from every exhibit because we have multiple exhibits. Our exhibits change every 8 to 12 weeks, depending on the time frame. And so they pick a work, they learn about it, they learn about the artist, and then they present it to each other, and then they come into the museum before we are open, and they record a 3 to 5 minute video that we then put on a Google Gallery tour that teachers can download and access since they're not coming into the museum right now. And they've been really responsive to that. They've had a lot of great feedback about how much they've learned, how interesting it's been. So I think a big thing has just been thinking outside the box for what to do with your docents, but as per recruiting, also really thinking about where do the people in your community go? Are they going to the library? Are they going to that coffee shop? And then spreading materials that way. We got one docent from a local pub because we left our stuff there, and she's there all the time, and she saw it on the table and she emailed us. So
that's great.
Yeah, where is your community? And then go find them, because they're probably not going to find you.
Yeah, that's actually, Katie, you gave a really good segue into my presentation. So,
Oh, you're welcome.
that's great. Talking about finding your community. So, so what we're going to do is I'll go ahead and bullet right through mine, and then we'll go to Cassandra, and then we'll let everyone, if you want to unmute after Cassandra's presentation, we'll let you ask questions. You can raise your hand. You can also type them in the chat. So I know Katie actually already answered the question. Do you have a local radio station? So that's WBOI. And I'm familiar with them. So I know that they helped you out a lot probably. So, all right. So from, I, of course, my museum, although it's in the middle of the desert, in the middle of nowhere, is part of the Smithsonian Institution. But we equivalently have all the same problems everybody else has with volunteer recruitment. So I had to start thinking outside of the box. I already mentioned to you guys that we're 22 minutes from the nearest city where I can actually recruit volunteers, because we're part of an observatory, and observatories have to be located on a sky island away from city lights. So that creates a little bit of a conundrum in hosting a science museum. So the first thing that I do to change my thinking is when I need to recruit volunteers, I think like a journalist. Okay, so that means, you know, in a journalism story, and I'm also a journalist outside of work, so I think a great story answers all of those questions that are on the slide. Who, what, when, where, why. So who, not who do I need and what do I need and when do I need it, but who wants to volunteer at my facility? What makes them want to volunteer? What is it that I can offer to them to make them want to volunteer? When do they want to volunteer at my facility? If they only want to volunteer on weekends and I'm only open banker's hours, that's a huge problem. And that's been a problem for me in the past, by the way. Where do they want to volunteer? Do they want to volunteer in my primary museum? Do they want to volunteer outside? Do they want to volunteer on the mountain? And why do they want to volunteer? Why has been a really huge thing for me, because you wonder, why does somebody want to come to a facility called the Center for Astrophysics? Okay, and that's a really huge thing. Why would somebody want to come to my facility? And so the other thing that I do is I also think like a marketer. Okay, and on the slide, you see that it says a marketer knows exactly who they are talking to before they ever say a word. And in marketing, so I previously worked in the marketing industry before I got into museums. And one of the big things we always did was think about exactly who it was we needed to sell to. If you've ever, you know, felt like a commercial was made for you, that's because it was, because marketing people know everything about you. They know all of your demographics. They know how much money you make. They know where you live. They know your favorite color. They know, you know, that they know I have 2 cats, you know, things like that. So they know a lot of things about me. And what they do is they bring that all together to create profiles. So for me, when I think about it, I go, okay, what roles do I need to fill? And so right now, as I'm thinking about this future of going back to my museum, I'm thinking I need in-school mad scientists, people who are going to do scientific demos and activities and write curriculum. I need science tour guides on my facility, and I need archives and librarians. Those are the primary roles that I'm going to need to fill, because most of my docents are like really itching to come back. I don't need docents. And I don't need in facility mad scientists. Those people are ready to go. So what I do when I think about a job description for my volunteers and the people I need to recruit, I don't really focus on tasks. And instead, I focus on their personality traits and who they are. So you can see under in-school mad scientist, I focus on they have to be outgoing. They have to be comfortable conducting science demonstrations live. So you don't get a second chance at that. They have to be confident with scientific concepts. They have to be capable of learning a science lesson quickly and working without supervision or assistance. I won't be there with them when they're in that classroom. Okay, and you can see the other ones up there, and I don't want to spend time on that. But so I think about what is it that I need from their personality, because I have so many different types of jobs and my volunteers are so good at so many different things that it doesn't help me to know, oh, well, they have to be able to put dish soap and yeast in this cup without exploding it ahead of time. I just need to know that they're outgoing enough to ride with it. So what I do is I create profiles. So once I know the kind of person I need to look for, I create a profile of the person I need to recruit. And so today I'm just showing you 3 different profiles, but I actually have 50 profiles for the types of people I want to recruit to work in my museum. And these are not real people, it's just the types of people that I want to reach out to. And so you can sort of read this. This is Wendy, so I'm going to point out a couple of big things about her. She taught school. I did make my own little town. You're correct. I see that in the chat. So I know that Wendy isn't confident in scientific concepts, but she really loves history. She loves to read, and she likes to help encourage other people to do research. That's a personality. That's somebody who actually exists. And so I know that I'm going to find that person. I tell myself, where would I find that person? At the library, at the archives. Our local newspaper has a huge archive for like 80 years of newspapers. I'm going to find that person there. And I'm going to very specifically look for an archivist and a librarian in those locations. So I'm not going to do a general call for volunteers. I'm very specifically looking for Wendy. And I'm looking in those locations. Then I have Mark. Okay, so Mark is not a typical volunteer for me. So even though we're the Center for Astrophysics, most of my volunteers do not have a background in astronomy or astrophysics. They've never looked through a telescope in their entire lives, but I do have 3 of them who are like Mark. And those are the kinds of people that I recruit very specifically to lead tours of our facility, because they have to download 60 years of information about telescopes and science. And they have to be really excited to share scientific research and information on the fly and to teach about the telescopes. And they spend 8 hours with their tour group. So our tours are all day. We're a little bit different of a facility. So we have 30 telescopes, you get to go in all of them and touch stuff. So Mark is a very specific type of personality. Now, I also have never had really youth volunteers before, but I wanted to recruit youth volunteers because I'm creating a youth ambassador program because I have so many schools spread out so far across the state of Arizona and in New Mexico and California that I need to serve, and that I need people on ground that don't have to drive 8 hours to get to where they need to go. So I started creating profiles for teenagers, and how do I recruit these kids? And so here you see, right? So it's a very specific personality of different types of kids who would be interested in working with us. And now I have a lot of shy kids. My first several volunteers in this program are really shy, so they actually create videos instead of doing science live in a classroom. And so they're helping me do virtual science lessons and virtual tours that are being put together inside of our museum. So what I then do is I take all of this information about Rashid and Wendy and Mark, and yeah, I like I said, I have 50 people, and I think about where am I going to meet those people. So just like Katie talked about, maybe I'm going to find Wendy in the archives, and I'm going to find, I have a volunteer that I call Michael, and he's a biker in a big leather biker vest, and maybe I'm going to find Michael at a pub, but he really loves dark skies and he thinks he's going to be an astrophotographer someday. And so by doing that, and basically what we're seeing in the chat is creating a town, creating a community, I figure out who it is I need to make the strongest docent population possible. And by doing that, it might sound a little strange to think about volunteer recruitment in this way, but what that helped me do was go from 9 volunteers to 63 in 8 months. And right at the time the pandemic started, I had 11 more volunteers waiting to be trained. And that did not include my youth ambassadors. So during the pandemic, I've recruited 17 youth ambassadors. And so, you know, it's going really well. We're figuring out how to actually recruit people and go through all the different types of channels to get to these people. And it all starts with knowing who they are on the inside. And that is all I have to say. So I'm going to turn it over to Cassandra. You're on mute. I'm unmuting you.
Thank you. Thanks, Amy. So like Amy said, my name is Cassandra Cavnis. I'm from the Montgomery Museum of Fine Arts in Montgomery, Alabama. And we have a pretty large volunteer group. We have docents. We have people that volunteer specifically just for special events. Then we have our teen volunteers. And then we have our young professional volunteers. So we have a wide range of people. The thing that I like to say that we really try to focus on is embracing diversity. And so that's kind of what we're going to talk about in my 5 minutes is this diversity aspect. Like I put on the Jamboard, our biggest problem is that we have this perception that we're a museum made by white people for white people, and that's it. But yet we live in an area that is predominantly African-American. And, you know, that's not a great thing when you're trying to recruit people from your community when over half of your community is African-American. So that's been a real big struggle for my museum in trying to broaden and think about how do we recruit and how do we get people to stay there. So one of the things that we've done is we have worked with our local university. So we have an HBCU in Montgomery, and we have partnered with them to create a STEAM tour. And our STEAM tour, right? Yeah. And so our STEAM tour, basically it takes the students from the science, technology, engineering, and math majors. They partner with one of our educators, they create a curriculum, and then they will, once the curriculum is created, then they will go ahead and give the tour. And so it's actually the college students giving the tour about things that they love, right? And then using art elements and using our collection to highlight them. So that's what's really great about this, is that we get the college students in there to give these tours to all of these elementary school students, or no, it's 7th grade. So that's what, junior high students. And we've partnered with our local school district. So every single 7th grader will be offered the tour for free. And so that's around roughly 2,800 students. So if all the schools hop on board, that's a lot of students that are getting some really great STEM education and STEAM education, but also it's a really great opportunity for those younger volunteers to get experience and to get entrenched in the museum and then want to come back. So that was kind of our thinking of that. It's like, get them early, get them involved in stuff that they love, and then they're going to want to come back. So that was one of the things that we did. We also have docent enrichment is what we call it, which is like a fancy term for docent training. But what we do is in our training, we try to do a lot of DEAI, which is diversity, equity, accessibility, and inclusion in the training. So even though you might be learning about a Fitzgerald painting, we're also going to talk to you about the inequities in the time frame that painting was created, and what did Montgomery look like during that time, and how has Montgomery changed. And so a lot of the older people that are in our docent corps have really come to embrace that and really cherish the fact that they're learning more than just the artwork itself. They're learning about the city. And they're learning about their community and the people that live in it and the people that live before them. So that's great. And then we have the Muses, which is our teen council, and they come in and they volunteer and they do different projects, and they are ages like 12 to 16. It was 15, but we just changed it to 16. And so we have them come in and they get to pick projects that they feel really passionate about. And what we do is we target different schools that are underserved. And so we kind of go out there and we talk to the schools and we say, you know, do you have students that might be interested? We get the teacher's perspective. Then we do classroom pop-ins where we talk about what the teen council is and what you can do. And then from there, you know, people will apply to be on the council. And then, you know, they have a really great time, and it's a year-long program. And we've had people come back again, and again. So that's really useful. And then our young professionals, which is where I actually kind of am over, that has been an area that we're really trying to grow. So it's like ages 25 to 40. And what I do for that is I like Katie said, I go out into the community and I really try to find where they are. And where I live is in the Bible Belt. And so I go to churches and I talk to people and, you know, I say, hey, you know, we got this great thing going on that's really targeted toward your interest. And what I try to do is make sure that people can see themselves in what we're doing, which is really, really important when you're trying to branch out for diversity of your recruitment. Because if the people can't see themselves in your museum or in, you know, what you're displaying or your programming or anything like that, they're not going to want to help you. And so I always have to try to make that connection of how can what we're displaying currently or in the near future be relevant to them. And that's kind of where I go with that, and really try to make sure that they understand that we're a museum for all and that we are there to be welcoming to all. And that's all I have.
That's so great.
I think that was my 5 minutes.
No, you're so great. And that was such a great point. You said something so amazing that I just love, which is you have to make it so that people see themselves in your museum. And that was one of the biggest things that I faced when I first came to the Whipple Observatory, which was that it was not a place that people saw themselves or could really feel confident being. A word astrophysics away to get rid of that feeling. I started actually recruiting people. I said, oh, you should volunteer at the Smithsonian in your backyard. And it changed so much of that relationship, because people then said, oh, I know what that is. And I can feel comfortable there. And so I think it's so important what you've said. And of course you have a rough go because it's the Bible Belt. I've lived there. It's a hard place to recruit.
It is.
Does anybody have questions for any of our speakers? Which is weird to say when I'm one of our speakers. I feel like somebody else should be hosting this. If you do, I can't see everybody. So if you have a question, you can feel free to unmute yourself.
Hey, Amy, I had a question for Katie. Do you have, I loved the idea of the virtual docents that you do where they pick a piece and then research it. Did you find that that's something that your docents really enjoy doing, and that they were really open to not only doing the research, but then also doing the video?
Yeah, so the first time we talked to them about it, they were like, you're giving us homework. So there was a bit of pushback when we first started, and we always get some from the couple of docents that we have that have no art background. They really like to be like, I don't know what you're talking about. I don't know what any of this means. And it was really being like, well, this is going to tell you, you're going to figure it out, and then you're going to explain it to us, because really the best way to learn something is to tell it to someone else.
Right.
And I've even had to do that. I came in, you know, with a history background, and they're like, oh, this is a lithograph. And I was like, what's a lithograph? So I feel for those docents. But yeah, now we actually just had our docent cocktail hour tonight, which we do every couple of months to just sort of, I think the biggest thing for docents is the social part. They just want to gossip with each other. But they actually gave us some really good feedback of being like, you know, we weren't sure we really wanted to do this, but now, and we took it really slow, kind of notching it up. So like the first couple that they did, they created, we made a template for them that they just had to fill out. So it was like, it's the piece, the label information, which we give them, then a short artist bio, and then about the artwork that we have, and then their artwork in general, and then questions for students for tours, and then any additional resources they'd want to give to teachers. And we actually put that in the tour that we then send out to teachers so they can use it. It's a downloadable resource as well. But we really wanted them to practice the 3 to 5 minutes for a video, not, you know, going on tangents or talking about other things, but really asking questions. And it's hard to do to a video camera. So we're usually there so they can pretend like we're the kids and they're talking to us, and that helps because it also gives them like line of sight to something. Otherwise you're kind of just looking around. So yeah, we definitely received pushback at first, but now they're like, no, this has been so nice. It's given me something to do. I've learned a lot. They usually have way too much information too. So it's been really nice to watch them learn to pare it down and get it into that 3 to 5 minutes. And now we've upped to the ante by making them choose a grade level to focus on. And we gave them a handout that sort of outlined like what you talk to with 1st to 3rd grade. You know, you really focus on colors and shapes. And then when you talk to 3rd to 6th grade, you focus on the person because they're really interested in the individual stories of the artists. So now we've kind of upped it and we're introducing like the curriculum standards and things like that. So we didn't do it all at once and throw them into the deep end. I think it's definitely better if you kind of give them little steps up to it.
That's a great idea. Do you have, sorry, one more question to follow up on that. Do you have like a art historian or somebody on staff that like checks the information before they do the video, or you just trust them and go with it?
We do.
Okay.
So it's a lot of work on the back end. But most of them is kind of like, you can usually tell if something seems off. We're an American art museum, so that also helps. It's not like we're looking at medieval art that has not a lot of research on it and they're kind of just making things up as they go along. It's a little bit easier to check. And we're actually contemporary art. So most of these people are still alive. And they've either come to the museum, they've helped put their exhibit up or something like that, or we have an impressionist show up right now. So that's a really big movement that just people are kind of fairly familiar with. So usually the couple of times we found something that's been like, it really stands out. Or they actually come to us too. They'll email us and be like, I found this source. We did a little demo on where to get your sources from. And they'll say like, I found this source. I don't know, can I trust it? And then we'll look at it and talk to them about it.
Wow, that's awesome. Thank you. Because I'm trying to find like, unfortunately, thanks to COVID, I am a development manager that also got to take over volunteers when our staff got cut. So I'm like revamping the program, and all of my volunteers, they're a lot older, so they don't want to come in, which makes total sense. But we're a sign museum in Las Vegas, so it's kind of like you said, the pieces that don't have a lot of information. So I'm trying to think of things that they can do that helps our education department. And yes, Samantha, I am with the Neon Museum. And they like trying to get them, virtual things that they can be involved in for anyone who's not comfortable coming to the museum. And I love that idea.
Yeah, I just chose in our year of making meaning, which is like all the stuff that the museum bought in the last year. I picked an artist that didn't have a lot of information on it. And was like, so then you focus on just looking at the art and you focus on, well, why did the art museum purchase this? I don't recognize this name. Why is it on the wall? No one should care about this dude. So I think if you can find a way to spin it.
Okay. That
great. Helps too, because they definitely don't like talking about things that they don't have a lot of information on.
Right. That's how ours are too. Awesome. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
I'm muted. Okay, so I keep telling everyone they're muted and then I muted myself. Katie, thank you so much. That was a great discussion. And so that's another great segue. Katie is the champion of helping us make great segues today. And so the next thing we're going to do is we're actually going to go into breakout rooms. Whoever has the 208 area code, if you would unmute yourself and let me know whether you also have a face somewhere in the video. So if you're on video, but then on your phone, I just want to make sure that if you're on two platforms, both of your platforms end up in the same breakout room. Nope, no to our 208 area code. You're there somewhere. So if you do 208 area code end up in two breakout rooms, please shout out for help and we'll get you situated. But so I'm going to put everyone in breakout rooms now. And so you have your moderator and you guys will be working with right in the chat, I just put a Google Docs spreadsheet, and your moderator will be helping to make sure information gets in there. And I just want you guys to kind of start brainstorming together some really good ideas, things that have gone right for you, things that you think could go right, and have a really good discussion. So the breakout rooms are only going to be open for 10 minutes, and really great brainstorming session. And Rive, I think that is how I pronounce that. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. Correct me later. Has already entered. Has entered the waiting room. Has come back. So give me just a second. I'm going to actually get Rive into a breakout room before we go anywhere. All right, and here we go. See you guys in 10 minutes. welcome back, everybody. I think everybody is here, almost. I think there's a few people still logging back in from their breakout rooms. Takes a second for people to come back. So what did you guys think of your breakout room? Did you get some good ideas, moderators? Jesse,
Yeah.
Jesse, do you mind sharing some of what you heard in your breakout room?
Sure, yeah. So Carol and Natalie and I were having a nice discussion. It's funny because we're all kind of opposite. I have like no volunteer recruitment experience. Natalie's just starting out, trying to kind of figure out how to get her head around everything and start new ideas for their programs. And then Carol's very experienced and has 16 years of experience working with volunteers. So we were all able to kind of come at it from a different angle. But some ideas we talked about were letting your volunteers recruit for you, like your existing volunteers, having them kind of do some of the legwork and bring in their community because they know other people who are probably in your same pool of people you're targeting. And also like getting content expertise. Like Carol works at the Museum of Flight, and so there's a lot of folks from the airline industry and Boeing nearby who want, like you were saying, Katie, earlier with teachers, like they want to continue their career after retirement in some way, and that this could be a way for them to do that. So those were some highlights for us, I think, but we've got lots of ideas in the spreadsheet for you all later.
I see that. I'm actually clicking through and it's amazing. This is, so we've had a really good night with a lot of really good ideas. Cassandra, what about you? What did you guys talk about?
Yeah, so we had an interesting conversation because I think for our group, which was, more along the lines of like, we came to this because we didn't really know what to do, which is great because that's what we're here for. We're here to learn, right? And we're here to share. And, some of the things we kind of got to eventually, as we talked it out is, targeting colleges
Karen,
that are near us.
join the meeting.
Targeting colleges that are near us with a more specific focus. So like going after majors, doing classroom pop-ins, doing one person, Margot, had talked about doing getting college students there on vacation. So if they're on vacation, they've had some success with having them for special events, things like that. And then we talked about using your virtual world to kind of recruit people into your volunteer fold. So one of the things that they do at the Morgan Hills Historical Society is that they do a walking tour. Well, right now they're not doing the walking tour, but if they could make that virtual, that might actually entice some people to come in and kind of check out their museum, see what it's about, see what kind of things they offer, and get people in the door that way.
Well, that's really cool. So I really love that. I did notice we ended up with 2 people from the same group in one room. So I understand how the way the dice roll sometimes with Zoom is not very fair. Catherine and Margot were always here to help. So if you need additional help, anyone who was here tonight, I'm sure would love to help you and brainstorm further. I'm always available to brainstorm. I love brainstorming. That's why we're here tonight, because I'm a huge brainstormer. So Laura, are you out there? You got away from my main panel. What did you guys talk about?
So it seemed like we talked a lot about, and anybody who was in my group, feel free to jump in too. It seems like we talked a lot about transportation issues. Katie, I know you said, you don't have a car, and I'm in Chicago, so I have public transportation more readily available, but you're right, people in the Midwest, if you don't have a car, it can take you a while to get where you need to go. So it seems like we focused on that for a lot of it, was transportation issues and how we might solve those problems. So I'm trying to get back to the spreadsheet, but it keeps, okay. So for example, Lauren with the International Quilt Museum suggested that for volunteers that are having trouble getting to your museum? You know, is there a way that a program or some kind of grant funding that museums could offer volunteers that transportation? Jump in if I misquoted you or if you wanted to elaborate on that. But I thought that was a great idea. You know, if you have that ability, a lot of universities, we're small, so we don't, but I know a lot of universities do have bus systems and things like that. So I thought that was a great idea. And then another idea that I think Katie mentioned, which I wasn't aware of this, but I guess some universities have like car loan programs. Is that right, Katie? Did I get that right?
Yeah, I just know a local university has cars that
Okay.
I know for sure teachers can check out. And
Yeah.
I think Lauren added if you made it, like if a teacher made it part of their program or part of their curriculum, like their syllabus, I guess is the word I'm looking
Right.
for, that they had to work with us, then the university might be willing to let them check that car out. I know I was able to when I was an intern in California. So
That is everyone should have that. That's amazing.
yeah.
Well, so in our group, we talked a lot about some of the issues. We all have a lot of similar issues too. And so the huge thing has been, you know, Lisa from the New Mexico Farm and Ranch did a pre-opening survey with her current volunteers to help retain current volunteers. And I thought that that was really meaningful and important because, you know, part of recruitment right now is retention because when you reopen your facility, you got to bring back the same people. My facility will be closed for a very long time. It's I was looking at the dates and I'm thinking December of 2021. So 1 year and 9 months that will be close. So I'm going to be able to bring those people back or I'll start all over from my 63 to 0. And a lot of us have people who've been there for a really long time. I mentioned in the group, I have someone who's been there almost as long as I've been alive. I'm in my 30s. Adrienne Huffman is at the David Davis Mansion. She has a lot of people who've been there for a really long time. And what she's looking for is trying to figure out who to recruit because teachers don't really want to be there. Or I guess that's how her experience at a former children's museum. So finding the right people, which is something, you know, Katie and I both talked about at length is how do you find those right people? And then I mentioned the one big thing I mentioned that I did a long time ago was actually I polled my current volunteers and found out what their job was before they were retired. And from there, I started recruiting people with the same job type. And so I would use that as a leaping off point to have a conversation. And so I've now recruited several former firefighters because I can say, oh, you know, we have 3 other volunteers who were formerly firefighters. You guys could form a volunteer gang. And I have 6 pharmacists, you know, so or former pharmacists amongst my larger group. And so by learning things about my current volunteers, I was able to kind of start to see pods forming in the types of people that volunteer as well. And so that was an interesting way to start recruiting and also helped me to form those profiles that I was talking about. And then Rebecca from the Museum of Flight in Seattle also talked about new types of things that they're doing. So like writing letters to kids for Christmas and doing more virtual presentations. And so even though they already have 500 volunteers, changing that, you know, reflecting their diverse community by doing these new types of programs, I think they can really start to collect more potential recruits. And so that was really cool as well, to see how new programming might be able to do that and give someone new an opportunity. So we've had a lot of really good ideas. And the last thing, I really hope everybody learned something awesome tonight. And we're about out of time. We're like 6 minutes, you guys. We're so close. We're going to be right on time. But so we have that last Jamboard. And if you found a good idea tonight, I really hope that you will go ahead and write it on here. If you've heard anything in the discussions tonight, or if you came up with a new idea listening to everybody else. And I'd really love to see that you came up with a new idea and that you're going to take it with you. And I'm thinking, I'm like, what's my big one that I want to take? I heard so many new and good ideas, and I think more virtual opportunities. You know, it sounds like that is really big. So that one's going to be mine. Love it. Oh, I'm going to start moving people. And I really do love that. So I just saw get your volunteers to help you recruit. That is such a great idea. And in another session, I actually had heard someone say, do a bring a friend event with your volunteers and get the, you know, have your volunteers bring someone to a volunteer training and see if you can recruit volunteers that way. And I think that that's a really exciting thing to do. Something I had considered pre-pandemic, and I'd love to hear what you guys think of it, is I take my volunteers on quarterly field trips to all sorts of really cool places. You know, the Pima Air and Space Museum. We went to a private meteorite collection, and I thought, what if I let my volunteers bring a friend on these field trips? Because a lot of what we do is very VIP, very behind the scenes. So we may be going to a specific museum, but they're taking us somewhere the public doesn't always get to go. And so showing potential volunteers the types of benefits that they would get by being a volunteer with us. And I kind of, so I thought about that and just seeing if that would excite people as well. Anybody? What do you guys think? I need to know because I'm always in the same boat as you guys. You know, I'm constantly trying to be creative.
I think that's a great idea. I think the public especially loves to see behind the scenes at museums. We get asked all the time what's behind. We call them the barn doors at the end of that, where we have like the vault and all the cool art and stuff. We get asked all the time what's back there, and people want to know. I think most of our board members joined because they wanted access to that behind the scenes. And it sounds cool when you get to tell your friends and family that you got to see the art first. So we actually recently, in the last 2 years, we have the president of our museum come in and speak to our docents every couple of months too, to talk about like where the museum is going, how our collection mission is changing and that kind of thing. So they get like the news first. And they absolutely love that they're in the know. So I think that's a great idea.
Yeah, we do that too. Especially with our young professionals, like they're called a board, but they're really not. But we do that with them too. Like we give them access to our director of development and our director of our museum, and they get to ask them questions and they get to know about what's going on, especially with COVID. Like they were like one of the first people to know if something changed and, you know, what our hours were and when we're going to be open and all that kind of stuff, because they really wanted to know. But then we've also put the onus back on them and said like, okay, we know that you love our museum. And one of the ways, you know, we appreciate you volunteering and we appreciate the time that you spend with us, but one of the ways that you can really help us is to help promote X, Y, and Z. And so we've asked them to help promote different things, like if it's an event or, you know, if it's a specific training or, you know, whatever it may be. And then all of our events for young professionals are geared towards our young professional group bringing up another person. And we have a goal that every event, our young professional board brings 2 new people. And then we keep track. We're like, oh, good job, Samantha, you brought 2. Like, you know, so we encourage people that, you know, are actually trying to meet what we're trying to get them to do.
Yeah, I think that that's a really great idea, and it's good. I love that, keeping track of it and making sure that everyone is doing the things that we all need to do, because we can't do it alone. You know, I mean, I didn't say at the beginning of the meeting, but I'm the only staff, the only paid staff in my science center, so I really rely on my volunteers pretty heavily, because I can't function in my job without them helping me by doing all of the things that they do. And so having them do that and really take responsibility and ownership of it is really important.
Yeah, we've also talked a lot recently about docent appreciation, how to show all of these volunteers who are giving us all of their time and not being paid that we appreciate it. So we decided to give everyone a membership to the museum, and then realized that our docents are so awesome, they already have memberships. So if anyone's come up with really great ways to show appreciation for these lovely volunteers, that would be great to know as well. Usually we do a big like Christmas and then spring kind of lunch dinner with them, but obviously with COVID that wasn't possible. So we did a cocktail hour where everybody had to make their own cocktail, but it wasn't quite the same because we weren't able to like put it together and have everybody in one place. So we're definitely trying to come up with more COVID friendly ways to show our appreciation for them.
So one thing I did for appreciation, we're going to have a whole other meeting to talk about volunteer appreciation. And actually I'm working with some people, even on other continents right now, to come up with a big list of like, oh, you're this size museum, here's what you can do. Oh, you have this many volunteers, here's what you can do, to keep it tenable, right? Because if you have 500 volunteers, like the Museum of Flight, it gets really hard to do a personalized something for 500 people. So one of the things that I've done, you know, I have my 63 volunteers, but I sit down about once I can't believe I'm saying this, in the pandemic, I sit down once a quarter. That's an awful sentence. I bought postcards that were special, right, to what we do in astronomy. And so I started with those dark skies postcards you find at national parks. And I got 60, 70 of those. And I sat down and I wrote all of them a handwritten message on a postcard, and I mailed them all. And so that's meaningful to my volunteers because they're from the generation that everything was a letter and you sent postcards, and that was, you know, how you communicated primarily. And so that's been really very popular. With my volunteers that I do that, I handwrite all their birthday cards. I have a lot of volunteers who had birthdays in like September. That was weird. So I spent like 3 hours writing September birthday cards, but I'm spending a lot of time doing stuff like that. It seems really simple, and it's, you know, $1 per volunteer out of our budget, but it has been so incredible to just have that type of relationship with them. And of course, then birthday cards, my address is on them as the return address because they're not coming from the observatory. And so about, I want to say 20% of my volunteers have started normal written correspondence with me. And I have found that is more meaningful to them than anything I have done in the past 2 years that I've been there. It has been it's been the most amazing thing, and they feel so appreciated and they feel so loved. I also, not everyone can do this, but I just played, I'm calling it Hazmat Ninja Santa Elf. This last Friday, I made all of them custom photo transfer ornaments, the Mod Podge style. And I drove out to their pod. They all live in like these weird little pods of communities. And I drove out there and I drove around and snuck up everyone's walkway and hung a bag on the door and then made a run for it, so that they would find them from me later. And of course, the handwritten Christmas cards in there as well. And that has gone a really long way. I've gotten a lot of emails about it and how happy everyone was to see that I did that. And then I drove so far away from my own house. I live in the middle of nowhere. And they were like, wow, you came to my house and you did this. And so, you know, we're talking about appreciation. It's the thought. It's so much the thought of what we're doing and letting them know how much we care. And I took a lot of time saying that. So if any of our speakers or moderators have any last thoughts, we'd love to hear them. And otherwise, I think we should say goodnight. All of these materials are going to be available to you. I'm going to say probably next week or the week after because of holidays. You know, I'll work with any EMP board members to get all these materials out for you. And I will also email everyone who was here tonight the Jamboards and the Excel spreadsheets so that you have all of that at your disposal. And please always feel free to share your ideas or problems or concerns. You know, we're all here together. And especially if you're a small museum, lots of you are out there. Everyone from, you know, Southwest region, you know how to get a hold of me. And if all of our board members who are here tonight could please write your email in the chat so that people know how to get a hold of you, that would be wonderful. And everybody, thank you so much for coming. Other board members, do you have anything you'd like to add? Or Katie? All right, do we other board members, I'm just calling you collectively. Do we have another event coming up pretty soon, right? Did anybody want to does anybody know the date of our first Skillshare?
Yes. So the date of our first Skillshare is Monday, January 11th. And that's going to be at 12 p.m. Central Standard Time. So we try to do it around, you know, the lunch hour, roughly. And it's going to be about actually membership, how to, especially during these difficult times, how to grow your membership in a constructive way. We'll be releasing more information about that. We'll probably put the event up on Facebook. And if you're on our email list, I believe we'll be sending something out like an e-blast as well. So I think after the holidays, all of that will be going out. But yeah, January 11th is the next one. Added to the email list. I think there's a way to do that on our website, but you can also email me. I put my email in the chat. It's just secretary@nationalempnetwork.org. If you email me, I can forward that request to the right person. I think that might be our director of communications now. So I'll touch base with her.
Great. Thank you. Thank you so much for helping us out. I am in the holidays, and that is spelled HOLIDAZE, and I cannot remember everything that's going on. But everybody, thank you again so much for coming. We'll have all of these materials out to you very soon. And again, if you have anything you need, please let any one of us know. We're always here to brainstorm, and we'll see you soon. Bye.